Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate day number 1186. Friday, July the 10th, 2020. Thank you so much for tuning in. Okay, let's go ahead and get to the news of the past 24 hours. There's quite a bit out there. Some of it I'm going to cover, some of it I'm just going to let it lie for a little while. I think I want to start first with commenting on this article. It's got people pretty worked up that appeared in the Gateway Pundit yesterday. And first, before I comment on the article, let me just say about the Gateway Pundit. That is a site that I look at probably most every day. It's a decent site to go to and catch. They're really good at getting stories up very fast, breaking news stories. So it's kind of a good place to go for fast breaking news stories. But it's also a site that I rarely use unless I double and triple check whatever story they have. So if I go there and I see a story that just pops up, and it's a breaking news story or something like that, I will usually wait and go double check the story with the Washington Examiner or the New York Post or Breitbart, or I will generally go to 2 or 3 other sites and try to get another take on the story rather than just run with it. And not because I think the Gateway Pundit is just a bad site or anything. I mean, I think they're a pretty good site, but I will say this: the Gateway Pundit is very much an activist site. They specialize. The stories and the way that they put stories, word stories, on the Gateway Pundit are definitely designed to push your buttons. They're definitely designed to make your blood boil. They're definitely designed to get you activated, motivated. And so, with that said, I mean, I understand that. That's what they do on the Gateway Pundit. It's an activist type site. They want to get people motivated, get people, and that means getting them angry, getting them worked up. So keep in mind when you're reading stories on the Gateway Pundit that it is very much a site designed to push your buttons, to get your blood boiling. So I always look at stories on the Gateway Pundit with that in mind. I know I'm reading a story on a site that wants to get my blood boiling and get me all worked up. I know that when I go to the site. So I generally want to get a more cool-headed or more level-headed take on a story. So if I see it on the Gateway Pundit, I'll generally want to go look at another site or 2 or maybe 3 just to kind of get a more even-handed take on the story. Because I know I'm going to get a very, sort of, I don't want to use a bias because, I don't know if that's the right word, but I'm going to get a story that's designed to really get me worked up, make me mad. So I try to look at stories on the Gateway Pundit from that perspective. Okay, so now that you kind of understand how I view the Gateway Pundit, and again, I'm not ripping the Gateway Pundit. It's not a bad site, but just understand what it is they do. They're very much, and most of the internet media is that way. Most of the sites are that way. You have sites like the Federalist, the National Review, the Washington Examiner, the New York Post. Those have a tendency to be more straight down the middle. Breitbart is a little bit, activist in the way that they write their stories, and the True Pundits, like, I don't even look at the True Pundit. They're just, too many stories they just flat out get wrong, okay? And they're really over the top. Gateway Pundit is, sort of not as far gone as a True Pundit. Like I said, they do a good job of getting breaking news stories up fast. But I don't want to get worked up over something I read in the Gateway Pundit till I check it on a couple other sources. So I want to go ahead and talk about one of the stories that hit up yesterday. The title of the story was, Durham under pressure to wrap up Spygate investigation, could punt it to after the election, President Trump furious. Yeah, so many of you saw Trump's tweet yesterday, actually a 2-part tweet responding to this story. Now, I'm not sure where he heard it. Maybe he saw it from someone posted the link to this on Twitter or Facebook or something, I'm not sure, but obviously he was responding to this story. And yeah, Trump should be furious after reading this story. Now, this story, they say they have 2 sources who spoke to Fox News. 2 sources who spoke to Fox News. Whenever I read a story that cites sources but does not name them, I ask myself, why does the source not want to be named? I'm always skeptical of sources who are not named. And that's 98% of the stories you read. No one wants to go on the record. Why is that? Well, there's a reason. There's many reasons why someone would not want to go on the record. So whenever I read a story that's sourced by unnamed sources, I'm always a little skeptical, right off the top. 2 sources who spoke to Fox News. Okay, so that means that these sources spoke to Fox News, which means that Gateway Pundit reporter who wrote the story is not the original person. They're reporting on what 2 sources, unnamed, we don't know, told someone at Fox News, and Gateway Pundit is telling us what 2 unnamed sources told someone at Fox News. Okay, so right there, I've got a lot of questions already. Now, the story goes on to say that Durham is working expeditiously to try and finish the probe by the end of summer, but that several lines of investigation are not yet complete. Durham does not want this to be viewed political, and the closer it gets to November, Durham can punt it until after the election. Okay. Well, there's quite a bit going on there. Yes, we know, because we've heard from Attorney General Barr, and we can assume that Durham is working expeditiously to try and finish the probe by the end of summer. Barr has repeated that multiple times in various interviews that he has done. And from a logical, reasonable, common sense perspective, I think it's safe to say that both Barr and Durham understand that if Biden wins the election, his investigation is toast. Because the day after, or shortly after Biden becomes president, Attorney General Barr is going to be fired and replaced with another Attorney General. Take it to the bank. And Attorney General Barr knows that. And Attorney General Barr probably wouldn't want to serve in a Biden administration. Durham understands that all the hard work he's gone to, along with these other U.S. attorneys, Jeff Jensen and John Bash and others that may be working with him, they all understand that that investigation will be quashed. They will put in a far left-wing attorney general. That attorney general will come in and immediately quash the Durham investigation. So if Durham is concerned about his investigation, if Barr is concerned about Durham's investigation, they are not going to try to punt it till after the election and hope for the best. There's no guarantee that Trump's going to be reelected. Now, I believe he will be reelected. And I think he's going to win with a larger majority, with a larger percentage of number of electoral votes in the Electoral College than he did in 2016. I'm thinking he could do, better. Because he's running against a weaker candidate. And a lot of other things going on, which I don't want to get off the track here on what I'm talking about now, so I'll get back to that some other time. But as much as I am probably, maybe the Attorney General, maybe Durham himself, maybe we all believe that Trump is going to be reelected. But there's no guarantee of that. Everyone knows that there's a lot on the line, and everyone knows that the Democrats will do anything and everything to stop Trump from being reelected, including lie, cheat, and steal. There's nothing they won't do to keep Trump from being reelected. The stakes are really, really high. And one reason is because of the Durham investigation. So Barr and Durham understand that Trump's not a lock to win in 2020. Anything could happen. These are crazy times. There's a lot of crooked dealings going on. The entire establishment who was caught sleeping in 2016 are wide awake now. And they will use every tactic in the book to defeat Trump, including lying, cheating, and stealing. There's no guarantee Trump will be reelected. Therefore, There's no guarantee that Barr would remain Attorney General and be able to supervise the investigation, and therefore no guarantee that Durham's investigation will not be quashed. In fact, it's almost certain that if Biden wins the election, Barr will be dumped and Durham's investigation would be quashed. So if they're worried about the investigation, punting it till after the election is probably the worst option that they have. Also, as I've said before, Durham doesn't necessarily have to have his entire investigation wrapped up before the election. From the time that Mueller began prosecuting his first person in his witch hunt to the time that he finally finished was months and months and months. All we really need to know before the election, and it's absolutely critical, and I have to think that Barr and Durham understand this. Barr and Durham have to understand that it's absolutely imperative, absolutely critical that the American people know before they go to vote in 2020 what happened in 2016. I can't imagine that Barr and Durham do not understand this most basic and most important fundamental issue with the investigation. It's more important than anything else, even than what happens to anyone. Even if there was not a single prosecution, even if they couldn't find a single crime that they thought that they could prove in court and win the case, just coming out and making the statement, coming up to the podium and saying, well, in our investigation we found that they definitely tried to stop Trump from being elected. They ran this, did a bunch of things to stop Trump from being elected once he was elected. Then they tried to cover it all up. The whole deal with Mueller was a dirty deal. They misrepresented things to the FISA court. The fact is, they need to come out and at least ways make sure that people understand what happened in 2016. Now, I have said that I believe that they should at least ways, and once they do that, they can continue on with the investigation. Barr and Durham can say, but at this point, we have determined that foul play was involved, and we are looking at indictments of people. We're putting that case together, but we think it's important for you to know before we go through this next election process where we are in the investigation and what we have learned at this point. We expect there will be indictments, or we expect there won't be indictments, but we still have found a lot of things that were wrong and shouldn't have been done, regardless of how they handle it. It's just absolutely important that they not necessarily finish and wrap up the Durham investigation, but that they at least ways make it perfectly clear that the investigation is continuing, will go on after the election, and they either have some initial indictments they're going to be bringing down, or they're not. Maybe there'll be some in the future, maybe not now, maybe not ever. But it's important that they at least ways make it clear what happened 4 years ago. It's critical. And I assume that Barr and Durham understand how important this is. But it's also very important to make sure that this doesn't happen again. If the Democrats were to win, if Biden were to win, Democrats were to win in this coming election, and none of this was to come out, this would be devastating to the future of our republic. And I don't know, just something about me makes me feel like Barr and Durham care about the future of the republic and the rule of law. Certainly Barr has given that indication. Durham, of course, this guy doesn't talk. He doesn't talk, he doesn't leak. I mean, he runs a very tight ship. But from what we know about him, he appears to be someone that really believes in the Department of Justice, the rule of law, and he hates corruption. We know he's a Republican. So we know he's not, now you could say he's part of the deep state. He's going to do a cover-up along with Barr. That's possible. That's entirely possible. In which case, back to what I said a year and a half ago when I said that Trump should have appointed a presidential commission. A presidential commission. That was always my preference. But that's not what we got. We got Barr and we got Durham. That's what we've got. Not my preference. I would have preferred a presidential commission. But before you get yourself all bent out of shape and all discombobulated and start throwing shit and raising hell, before you get your blood pressure up, before you drive your car into a tree or something, keep calm and don't overreact to this story. Now, as far as the timing, yes, I have said that you don't really want it to look political, and that's why I said that I think that they should come out and at least ways, even if he's not done with the investigation, tell us where they are in the investigation and tell us what they've learned so far and where they expect the investigation may go. You got to do something, and I believe that that should happen before the conventions. And the conventions are set to go on about the second week of August, right around the second, third week of August. So my preference has been for a very long time that prior to the week of the convention is when Barr and Durham need to come out. And even if they're not completely done with the investigation, tell us where the investigation is and tell us what we need to know before we go to vote in November. And the investigation can continue. He can indict some people now and then continue the investigation. There are indictments he can hand down right now. Just because you've indicted someone right now doesn't mean you can't go back and indict them for more things later. Lots of guys are sitting in prison for crimes they committed, and all of a sudden, they find out that they've just been, served with papers that they're going to be back in court because another crime has been discovered that they were a part of, and they get charged for that crime too while they're in jail. So, some of this stuff I just, I'm not biting it totally at this point. I find it very difficult to believe that either Barr and or Durham believe that punting it until after the election is a wise option. I don't think these guys are that stupid. I really don't. So I don't believe this, really. I don't believe they're going to punt until after the election. I certainly do believe that it's very likely that with as large a conspiracy as this is it could very well take more time. But at the same time, I also understand that you can begin indicting people and you can essentially give us a progress report of what you've learned so far, which would be critical for people to know before they go and vote in November. But the idea of just punting it till after the election because you're worried about it, this idea that Durham doesn't want it to look political. Come on, these guys are not that naive. It doesn't matter when they come out and indict people or not indict people or whatever it doesn't matter when they do it, the timing. It's always going to be viewed as political. They could have come out 6 months ago before the primaries started and told us what was going on. It still would have, of course it's going to be politicized, regardless of when they come out or what they come out with. It's already being politicized. The investigation is not even complete yet, and it's being politicized. So the idea that they're concerned it's going to be politicized, come on. These guys are not children. These guys are not softies like that. Barr and Durham are tough guys. They know the territory they're in. They know they're going to be attacked viciously. They know it's going to be politicized. Everything in Washington is politicized. It's a very politicized investigation. So, this whole story and the Gateway Pundit, I would just dismiss it. Just don't worry about it. It's too many problems with it. Too many problems for me to get bent out of shape about something that may very likely not even be legitimate. Again, I think a lot of times when you see these types of stories in the Gateway Pundit, they are designed to piss you off. And possibly they're designed to give fodder to people like Jim Jordan or Maria Bartiromo. Certainly Bartiromo, if she reads this, you can bet on her Sunday morning show, she's probably going to be asking whoever she's got on her show. She might even try to email the DOJ. People will be emailing the DOJ and wondering, hey, is this story that we read true? The spokesperson for the DOJ, Carrie Kupek, I'm sure she's probably already gotten emails yesterday. Hey, is this true? Are they seriously talking about punting this until after the election? Oh, I'm sure that this has wound a lot of people up, which is probably what the story was designed to do. And I understand that. That's activism, and there's a good thing about that. But just realize when you're reading these stories what the motive and the intent is in the story itself, regardless of what the information is. Regardless of keep in mind that the media is used, particularly the internet media is used, to really push people's buttons on the left and the right. And just keep that in mind, that you're constantly being manipulated. You're constantly being manipulated. And so you have to maintain your, composure about everything and try to understand everything in the context, in the world we live in, the time frame we live in. Try to keep yourself as much as possible. Don't get too high. Don't get too low. Throughout this entire time that I've been covering this Spygate story, over 1,000 videos, 3 years I've been on this story, there have been highs and there have been lows. But I've always tried, I'm not always successful, but I've always tried to stay pretty tempered. I'm not gonna go over the cliff on the stuff that, wow, this is great, and really go over the top on the things that appear to be good, nor am I going to go, sink myself into depression because something makes me unhappy or sad about what we're learning. Stories like this. So try to keep an even temper and just take it day by day and let it work itself out, and we'll just take it as it comes and deal with things as they come. We don't know what's coming. But this story here, please, if you read this story and you're all wound up, take a deep breath, relax, and let's just wait and see what happens. Judge Sullivan is refusing to follow the Judge Sullivan is refusing to follow the Court of Appeals ruling to dismiss the case against Michael Flynn. Sullivan is now asking for the entire Court of Appeals to review the previous ruling by the 3-judge panel. If accepted, the Flynn case could drag on through the fall, even past the November elections. But even if the court rejects Sullivan, Sullivan could then go to the Supreme Court, which would also take months and months. So what is this telling us? Well, it's telling us what we've been seeing all along. They're stalling. They're stalling, doing everything they can to not have to come out and officially dismiss the case. Because once that happens, Michael Flynn, he can start talking. They don't want Michael Flynn talking before the election, because he knows all the dirty details that have never been disclosed to the public about the Iran deal. He might know things about the Trump coup. He might know other things. Whatever it is, there's a lot of people who fear Michael Flynn talking. That's what this is all about. It's to keep Flynn shut up until after the election. There's a reason for that. So this appears to be the tactic they're going to use. Now, whether or not the Department of Justice has any measure they can take to rein in Judge Sullivan and put an end to this, I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. I'm sure they're going to have some response, because this is a serious game that this guy's playing. And again, as I said a couple days ago, they must have something on Sullivan for him to take things to this degree. I mean, he is, this is fairly unusual to see a judge do something like this. So I don't know if they got something on him and he's being, extorted or something. There's some reason why Flynn, I find it hard to believe that he's just so passionate about this case, especially when there's been so much evidence that exonerates Flynn. Why would he continue to push it and push it and push it and refuse to allow this case just to end and let Flynn get on with his life? The only thing that makes sense is they want to delay. They want to shut Flynn up, keep him from talking, which he really can't go out and talk until the case is actually dismissed. So it's just a delay tactic. But it tells you a lot. It tells you that they fear Flynn so badly that they would have a judge put himself in this position to look so bad and so corrupt. We'll wait and see. Tomorrow, I'm sure there'll be some pushback from the DOJ. There'll be some response. But, this really didn't surprise me, because when Flynn was told, or when Sullivan was told by the higher court to dismiss the case, and he didn't do it within 24 to 48 hours, I thought, hey, He's not going to do it. I mean, it's been 2 days. He's been told to dismiss the case. He hasn't done it. He's obviously got something up his sleeve. The Democrats have a lot of things up their sleeves. We have Tom Friedman, who wants Biden, wrote an article in the New York Times saying he wants Biden to skip the debates unless Trump releases his tax returns and agrees to having a fact checker. I've been watching Thomas Friedman since I was in my early 20s. He used to always be on the Sunday morning programs. He's revered in liberal circles as this, sort of guru. I think the guy's a complete idiot. I've been watching him for years. I think he's a dumbass. But he's loved by liberals, mainly because he's as much a Democratic activist as you can be, and still maintain this, air of being this above-it-all journalist. He's sort of been able to position himself that way, and I'm not sure why, because the guy's a hack. He's a total hack, and he's a dum-dum. And he's wrong. He's constantly wrong. Gets everything wrong. But this is a stupid article. He knows that there's not going to be any fact checker at the debate. That's ridiculous. And it's insulting to the American people, saying that you're too stupid to know when you're being lied to, because he's an elitist snob himself. And as far as Trump releasing his tax returns, saying, I'm not going to debate you if you don't release your tax returns, I don't think that's going to fly. It's stupid. If Biden actually did that and said, well, I'm not going to debate Trump unless he releases his tax returns. Yeah, go ahead. I hope he does it. Go ahead and try that. We'll see how that works. I don't think so. So, this is a stupid article by a stupid man. Forget about it. It's a joke. Just like Mr. Friedman. Michael Cohen is back in jail after he violated the terms of his release. He was seen having dinner at a restaurant with his wife and some friends last weekend, and he violated the terms of his home confinement. Well, Michael Cohen strikes me also as a pretty stupid guy. He's probably friends with Tom Friedman. They're a couple of stupids, and they suffer from a disease called the stupids. They both have a healthy case of it. We have the Democrats trying to push a measure that would deny funding to Attorney General Barr for travel outside the District of Columbia. And the reason they are citing is that Barr is investigating the Barr investigation of FBI misconduct targeting the Trump campaign. Yeah, so they want to pass a measure that would deny funding to the Attorney General for travel outside of the District of Columbia to punish him for investigating the misconduct, I guess we could say, of the FBI. Well, that's also stupid, and that will never pass. It may get out of the committee, but that's as far as it's going. Just another stupid idea. You see how much stupid we have to live with in this world? I have to go day after day going through these news feeds to get material to do my videos, and I have to go through stupid after stupid after stupid after stupid story, reporter. It frustrates me because I just want to follow the Spygate story. That's all I really want to do, and document the Spygate story. But I have to sift through this garbage day after day after day. The stupid stuff that I have to deal with on a daily basis just to cover a damn story. This is all stupid. Friedman's story, stupid. Michael Cohen, he's stupid. Democrats withholding funding from Barr for travel, stupid. This stuff's all stupid. No choice. And these are the best I could find. Imagine that. How stupid the other stuff is that I passed over. Black Lives Matter is not just happy with defunding the cops. Now they have a new thing that they're on, which you'll be hearing about in the days and weeks to come. They now also want to close the prisons. It's not enough just to stop locking up and arresting criminals. Now they want to let them all out of jail as well. Be just like the Wild Wild West. Man, if you're not armed, you better get that way. And you know, when I have some extra bucks at the end of the month, I go buy some ammo. For a couple of reasons. Number one, I think someday I might need it based on ideas like this. And because, quite honestly, when the ammo shortage comes, do you know how much money people are willing? You think you're getting good return on your 401k? Check out the return on your investment in ammo. When you've got 50,000 rounds and no one else in town has any. Not that you would gouge your neighbors, but you would probably want to make a little return on your investment, don't you think? I certainly would. Now, of course, if it was me and the shit really hit the fan, I guess in my street, I'd probably start passing out ammunition. And if anyone was lacking weapons, I'd pass them out as well. For my own militia on my own street. Although pretty much everyone where I live is pretty heavily armed, so we're all good. But if anyone comes up short, I'm there to help. Papaglopoulos tweeted out yesterday, there will be criminal referrals against Mueller's team. I assume he's talking about Devin Nunes making criminal referrals. Well, Devin Nunes has made dozens and dozens and dozens of criminal referrals. I don't know about you guys, but I don't get very excited about criminal referrals. I get excited about criminal indictments. Criminal indictments. Criminal charges. Referrals, whoop-de-doo. I can make criminal referrals. You can make criminal referrals. Would you like to make a criminal referral? I would. And God bless Devin Nunes. He's doing the best he can. But quite honestly, criminal referrals, what a joke. Criminal charges. That's what we're looking for here, not referrals. Whether or not Durham is looking at people on the Mueller team, I don't see how he could not. Based on what we've learned from the IG reports and from releases of documents, pretty obvious the Mueller team was corrupt and knew that they were chasing a ghost. They knew that there was no Trump-Russia collusion on day one. They did a lot of things that were very corrupt and illegal. And yes, they absolutely should be. And I think that's one of those lines of investigation that Durham isn't quite deeply delved into as much as he would like. That may be one of the things that's kind of outstanding. This is probably not one on the top of his list, but you can't complete the entire investigation because you're going to stumble onto all the problems with the Mueller witch hunt, and it needs to be investigated. So, yeah, I have no doubt that that will come up. Now, as far as Biden's concerned, I still am not convinced that he's going to be the Democrat nominee. I think the Democrats have a lot of things up their sleeve, not just in trying to lie, cheat, and steal the election, but also Biden himself being the nominee. Until I actually see Biden come out of the Democratic convention as the nominee, until I actually see that, I am not going to be 100% convinced that he is going to be the nominee. And I don't buy into this fact that it's all going to be on the VP. People don't vote for the VP. And everyone says, well, Michelle Obama. You don't put someone in the VP position that upstages the president. It wouldn't work that way. They would dump, if Michelle Obama would jump on this thing, they would dump Biden. They dump Biden to get Michelle Obama as the top of the ticket, not put her as a VP. I don't know what the Democrats got up their sleeve, but I know they got something up their sleeve. And I don't 100% believe that Biden is going to be the nominee until he walks out of the Democrat convention declared the nominee. We'll see. We'll keep following that as well. Thanks for tuning in. You guys take care. See you. Bye.